This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Incumbent President of Namibia looks set to retain his seat amid vote counting delays. Leaders and experts single out corruption as an impediment to productive use of land in Africa. And we look at how the Chinese-built standard gauge railway is impacting lives in Kenya. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to you live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers. Here are more stories coming up. Efforts to contain a deadly measles outbreak in DRC targets millions of children. And we show you what Ugandan activists are doing to help tackle gender-based violence. We begin in Namibia, where the country is still waiting for the final results of Wednesday's elections. The Electoral Commission on Friday announced preliminary results for the presidency and National Assembly seat. But it says that there has been a delay in collating numbers from all constituencies. Namibian President Hage Geingob looks set to secure a second term. He was previously elected with a sweeping 87% majority in 2014. But Friday's partial results show him leading with only 57% of the vote in the latest elections. The incumbent president was predicted to lose votes to surprise candidate Panduleni Itula. The former dentist running as an independent is a breakaway member from Geingob's own ruling party. Itula is currently second in the partial polls with 29% of the vote. Namibia's ruling party has also taken the lead in parliamentary elections. The Southwest Africa People's Party has been in power since independence from South Africa in 1990. Based on Friday's preliminary results, SWAPO is ahead with 66% of the vote. The party's long-standing opponent, the Popular Democratic Movement, is trailing at a distant second with 16%. But as the 2019 elections draw to a close, the next order of business will be to deliver on campaign promises. CGTN's Angela Coppola takes a look at Namibia's priority areas.
The key issue facing the new administration will be to revive the economy. Analysts say it's floundering, and that includes the purely managed state-owned entities. But there's another side to the economy that will also need immediate attention. It's been highlighted by the failure of the state-controlled anti-corruption watchdog to identify the alleged fraud and corruption around several fishing licenses.
So, I mean, the economy is right up there. That should be number one. And when we talk about the economy, we're talking about sort of the governance elements in the economy, the governance, state governance and so on. So good governance is a serious concern. And we see this with the corruption scandals that are now coming out and so on. And the basic how the SOE sector, state-owned enterprises sector, is just mismanaged. And the economy has basically collapsed. So, and it will probably prevail through 2020. So that definitely will be the major concern.
The other challenge facing an incoming SWAPO government is that the voter returns point to a serious challenge. The party has lost significant voter support, and its president is also under pressure, with a single challenger denting Geingob's final numbers.
And there are decisions to make here. And I mean, it's an open question whether those decisions will be made. If the incoming president, if the incumbent's hand is weakened considerably by the results here, it will leave him very little room, in my estimation, to maneuver, to make those hard decisions. A purge of some sort will have to be, a clean out of some sort will have to be undertaken. And I just don't see it if his hand is considerably weakened.
Namibia is one of the poorer African countries with a heavy dependence on mining and accounting for some 8% of GDP and over 50% of foreign exchange earnings. Yet only 3% of people are employed in that sector. That, coupled with the governance issues it faces, means that the new administration has a lot of work to do in the next 5 years. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Windhoek, Namibia.
To West Africa, where a biennial conference on land policy in Africa has been going on in Abidjan, the capital of Côte d'Ivoire. The summit was organized by the African Union in collaboration with the African Development Bank. It brought together more than 450 participants from 30 countries from the continent and around the world. Here's CGTN's Daniela Pearson with the details.
The aim of this year's summit is to find solutions to the problems of land in sub-Saharan Africa. According to delegates, land must be distributed equitably and accessed by all.
Why do we not recognize that land is a collective and not an individual property? It must first be recognized that land in Africa is collective and traditional property. It must be managed by traditional authorities and not sold or distributed. We are delighted to be invited here to speak about it because it is through dialogue that a solution will be found.
The five-day event also enabled leaders and experts to exchange views on how they can tackle corruption in the land sector.
Good governance and competent leaders will help win the fight against corruption. We also believe that the main cause of land corruption in sub-Saharan Africa, for the most part, is the conflict between farmers and breeders. We need to do something about this.
We come from diverse backgrounds. The conference has not only given us good opportunity to exchange knowledge and share experiences, but also enabled us to understand how corruption in the land sector occurs.
Experts say corruption hampers efforts to promote good governance, socio-economic transformation, peace and security in Africa. Seychelles, Botswana and Rwanda have been ranked among the least corrupt countries in Africa. Governments are now being urged not to give up efforts to make Africa corruption intolerant. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, health officials have launched a measles vaccination campaign that targets about 18 million children across the country. More than 5,000 people have died from the disease since the beginning of the year. The exercise has, however, been interrupted by armed conflict in some parts of eastern DRC. CGTN's Kisa Mringa reports from Kinshasa.
A measles vaccination exercise has been launched in Kinshasa. The campaign is being held across the country to roll back an outbreak that has killed more than 5,000 people this year. The highly contagious disease has infected 250,000 people so far, the vast majority of them children. Health authorities here hope parents will heed the call to bring their children for the jabs.
We have already vaccinated 150 children so far. We are targeting 300 of them today. We've sent our health teams to different communities to convince parents to bring their children.
The World Health Organization has described the measles outbreak in the DRC as the world's largest and fastest moving epidemic. Healthcare workers in Kinshasa have vaccinated hundreds of children in this ongoing measles campaign, but many children in eastern DRC have missed out on the life-saving vaccine due to the ongoing conflict. Violence and insecurity in the eastern province of North Kivu has forced health officials to interrupt the measles campaign. Cultural beliefs by some community members have also led to a low measles immunization rate.
The many challenges we have is, first of all, the communication. The patients, the parents are not very aware of the early consultation to the health facilities in order to reduce these many deaths of children.
Measles is a highly contagious respiratory disease that can result in severe complications and death. The disease has killed more than twice the number of people who have died of Ebola in the past 15 months. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
The Chinese-built standard gauge railway linking Kenya's capital Nairobi to the coastal city of Mombasa and the outskirts of the resort town of Naivasha has ferried more than 3.5 million passengers so far. It has changed the lives of many Kenyans. Here's CGTN's Wilkes Anyawa with more details.
One particular Kenyan girl's life has been changed because of Kenya's standard gauge railway.
My name is Consilia Wire. I've studied, my profession is electrical engineering. And right now I'm training as a locomotive driver. My first day to board the locomotive was back in China, even though at that time I didn't know how to drive it.
Obira drove the train which carried the Kenyan president in 2017 when the railway between Mombasa and Nairobi was opened. When the second phase of SGR, which extends the railway from Nairobi to Naivasha, launched in October, she was appointed to drive the president again.
I am honored to participate in the inauguration of the operation of SGR Phase 1 and Phase 2A.
The localization process is almost achieved. For example, in the passenger transport, we have totally achieved the localization process. So you find that most of the Kenyan staff are the people operating.
Obira has passed various tests in the past 3 years and achieved a driving license to officially become a junior locomotive driver. This means she's qualified to drive with minimal to no supervision.
Our heartfelt gratitude goes to our leaders, the teachers, and all who have supported us through our journey. Transfer of technology is not going to be done in a single day. Like today I've been taught how to drive, the next day I drive. It doesn't work like that. And even in China, it takes time for somebody to be able to drive the locomotive or just any other operation within the railway industry.
Obira believes that more young people in Kenya will become professional railway staff members and participate in the construction of East Africa's railway network. Currently, 15 Kenyan junior locomotive drivers steer passenger, freight and shunting locomotives along the Mombasa, Nairobi and Nairobi-Naivasha SGR network. Wilkisa Nyabwa, CGTN.
Lusaka is the glittering capital city of the Republic of Zambia. Joseph Muyunda is a young man with passion. His life moves around different rhythms and pursuits to ordinary people. Yet, he is not alone in his pursuits. The city of Lusaka pulses with drum beats and classical music.
Welcome back. Well, Uganda campaigners are renewing their efforts in the fight against gender-based violence. It's part of the international campaign 16 Days of Activism, which runs annually from the last week of November. Our correspondent Isabel Nakira has more details.
Tears of agony and regret. Millicent Mowoya suffered repeated physical abuse from her partner. The violent relationship culminated with a brutal attack in which acid was thrown in her face, leading to the loss of an eye.
He came with acid hidden in a polythene bag. He was wearing gloves. I saw him. He didn't even hide his face, but I had nothing to do. All I tried to do was try to hold his hands, but it was too late and he poured acid on me.
Millicent, who was left with a permanent scar on her face, struggled to get justice.
For over 6 months, he was nowhere to be found, not even in Kampala, until Action Aid with the help of police tracked him down and he was arrested. But in court, he was given bail and released even when they could see the state I was in.
After Millicent appealed the court's ruling, he was later sentenced to 8 years.
Not many women can speak out against violence. Culture dictates that women stay silent about marital problems, but campaigners are trying to inform them about the dangers of violent relationships and offering space for them to speak out to help them heal.
The 2016 Demographic Health Survey shows over 50% of women in Uganda have experienced physical violence.
You find that even the local council leaders are conniving with perpetrators, known to take the perpetrators to police. So creating awareness, empowering the communities is very fundamental. So you find that even the women are afraid of even going to court because they've not been oriented.
Millicent keeps sharing her story with the hope of saving other women. Still not over her own trauma, Millicent continues attending counseling sessions as part of her ongoing recovery efforts. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala.
In Tunisia, domestic violence affects nearly 9 out of 10 children. This is according to a recent government survey conducted as part of a series by the UN Children's Agency. CGTN's Adnan Shuashi takes a closer look at those numbers.
The state official in charge of the study said that this indicator, which includes notably verbal, material or sexual violence, reached 93%, according to previous surveys.
Tunisian families must rethink their way of raising children. Even educated parents tend to mistreat their offspring. Dialogue with children is best way because any form of violence at an early age breeds violence.
Following the release of this study, a parliamentary committee has gathered all stakeholders from the Ministry of Women, Family, Children and Seniors, the Tunisian League of Human Rights and several childcare associations. The focus group invited civil society activists, parents, social scientists and child psychiatrists.
The percentage of children who are victims of violence is shocking. Understanding this alarming phenomenon is necessary in order to find relevant solutions. Physical and verbal violence are a threat to a child's mental health. However, ignoring or not dedicating enough time to a child is also a form of violence.
These surveys, based on a series of 183 indicators, including on sustainable development, have shown a clear improvement in most of the indicators, particularly those related to the situation of the child's mother, their health, education, childhood and domestic violence.
It's true that parents are under pressure due to the high cost of living and the huge responsibilities. However, this does not justify any form of violence against children. If you have children, you must take care of them.
The Ministry of Women, Family, Children and Seniors has established temporary shelters for children in vulnerable situations in many regions across the country. Social scientists assert that the new indicators and rates on the different forms of violence affecting children should be taken into account when devising strategies and action plans in the various fields, including health and education. Experts also stress the importance of parental education. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
Let's turn to South Africa, where Police Minister Becky Mhlele has announced a 6-month firearm amnesty starting from the 1st of December. South Africans can turn in illegal firearms without facing prosecution. The amnesty includes those whose licenses have expired. CGTN's Yulisa Njamela takes a look at how the upcoming amnesty can make sure that the country is a whole lot safer.
This is the fourth such amnesty since 1994. The South African Police Service is strengthening its capacity to recover unlawful weapons. All those in possession of an unlicensed gun or guns are implored to make use of the amnesty. Otherwise, police say they will have no mercy on those who fail to do so. Ballistic tests will also be conducted on all surrendered firearms to check if they were used in any crime.
Those that have the legal firearms that have expired licenses, they have an opportunity of handing over their firearms or renewing their licenses. But even so, before we renew your license, we must know what your gun has done, because it might happen that during the period you have illegally abused your guns.
The latest crime statistics show that firearms are still the most common weapons used in serious crimes. Up to 450,000 firearms that were legally owned are now unlawful after the licenses expired. While it is still unclear how many illegal firearms are in South Africa, lobby group Gun Free SA estimates that there are about 4.5 million legal weapons in the country. Up to 27 of those are lost or stolen every day.
With regards to the amnesty, both SAGA and NACSA would always be in favor of it, provided the people with the real illegal firearms, in other words, your criminals, those people who commit crimes with firearms, if they would surrender. But our experience over the last number of years is that that does not happen.
The amnesty is part of government's plan to tackle the proliferation of firearms in our communities and to deal decisively with the access of illegal firearms. Minister Cele also assured South Africans that this festive season, lawbreakers will be harshly dealt with.
Crime is known to substantially increase over the festive season. The police ministry is taking no chances and will be deploying more police personnel around the country.
I want to assure all those who live within the borders of South Africa that men and women in blue will not take break. Actually, all the leaves have been cancelled, even at the top level.
Minister Cele remains confident that the high crime rate in the country can still be fixed. Yudison Jamala for CGTN in Pretoria, South Africa.
Time for a short break. Your sports news is up next. Here's what you can expect. South Africa's Orlando Pirates among 24 football teams that will play in the 2019